Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from three-weight world champion Michaela Mayer, who was asked by Santa Corona, as a huge women's boxing fan, for me the best fight to make is Mayer versus Price in the welterweight division for Undisputed, to which Michaela responded, Price is unavailable. She wanted a tune-up fight in April and then has her wedding in May. Had to start negotiating elsewhere for now. Elsewhere being the Clarissa Shields fight they've been talking about for the last few weeks, and we'll see if that happens, because I've my reservations about the fight purses for that fight, the money, and the weight at which it's supposed to take place. Both of which are palpable obstacles they must overcome to get that fight over the line. But is it true what Michaela said? Did Lauren Price duck her to go fight in a tune-up fight in April ahead of her wedding in May? That's not exactly accurate. The fight that she's about to have early next month on the 4th isn't exactly a tune-up fight so much as a mandatory title defense. Puerto Rico's own Stephanie Piñeiro is not a tune-up kind of opponent, not a tune-up kind of fighter, and the reason that they're fighting is likely because some fights ago, Stephanie Piñeiro picked up a secondary version of a WBA title, making her Lauren Price's mandatory challenger. Now, maybe you feel that the skills gap between them is wide enough that Stephanie doubles as a tune-up and a mandatory, it being that Lauren hasn't fought in about a year. But as stated, that's not all that brings them together. Unbeaten Lauren Price sports an unblemished record of 9 wins with no losses and no draws, 2 knockouts. 31 years old. To Puerto Rico, Stephanie Piñeiro, who sports an unblemished record of 10 wins with no losses and 3 knockouts, 35 years old. Both fighters are southpaws. Both fighters lead with the right hand in order to set up the left. Lauren Price was last in action all the way back there in March of last year opposite the ring Natasha Jonas, who she beat to add some more hardware to her collection. She beat her by a decision, and I remember watching that fight and thinking, Lauren is deliberately going easy on Natasha Jonas. She must be, because she's so much faster and physically stronger. She could easily push for the knockout, but she's settling on a decision, going easy on the old girl. All the way back there in March of last year, whereas Stephanie saw action more recently in November opposite the ring former champion Ana E. Esther Sanchez, who she decisioned over 10 rounds. Stephanie, in spite of not being with a major promotional outfit, was actually busier in the previous year than the reigning champion. She had 2 fights, one in September and one in November, whereas Lauren only fought once. And those 2 fights were against 2 very solid fighters in the hard-punching Marie-Pierre Huel of Canada and the former champion Ana E. Esther Sanchez of Argentina. Stephanie had a brief stint under the Matchroom banner that only really lasted about 2 fights, and she was back to fighting on smaller shows on the island of Puerto Rico before you knew it. But even being with a smaller promotional outfit, she's managed to stay busy, at least busier than Lauren Price. I'd say that it was Lauren Price's schedule that took a hit in the previous year as a result of Boxer's broadcast situation, the Sky Sports deal ending. Remember that? And them inking a new deal on BBC, which is comparatively a bigger platform but isn't providing Boxer with a bigger budget. Anecdotally, because Sky Sports means to re-enter the boxing space in the form of a deal they've signed with MVP and a rumored deal they're supposed to be signing with Zuffa Boxing, I don't think it would have been a bad idea to keep Boxer on board. The British boxing fans are at least more familiar with Boxer as a promotion than MVP, than Zuffa. If you're still going to stay in boxing, why not just give them a new deal, perhaps a smaller one? They don't really have that many fighters anyway. I suppose the time to make that decision has long since passed, because Boxer is on BBC now, and Lauren Price is set to make her BBC debut early next month on the 4th opposite Stephanie Piñeiro, who Michaela referred to as a tune-up kind of opponent, but I don't agree with that. Even if you have Lauren Price winning the fight, and I do, it's not because Stephanie's so bad so much as Lauren is so good. But what evens the playing field is the night of, Lauren Price is going to be shaking off ring rust. She will have been out a little over a year, so we'll see if Stephanie can't use that to her advantage in some way to make it competitive. Yeah, I've got Lauren winning the fight by way of a points decision, but you never know. Maybe Stephanie can give a good account of herself. Yesterday, you might have noticed that Rolley Romero went into full panic mode now that he's left without a dance partner, saying Ryan Garcia is the biggest coward in boxing. He ducked our rematch clause when we had the entire deal, purses, venue, and splits done. He gets scared and decides to fight a completely weight-drained Barrios. He only wants to fight pillow-fisted bums.
What's Rolley panicking about?
That without a unification match or some sort of high-profile fight, the WBA might actually order the fight between him and his mandatory challenger, Shakram Giyasov. Rolley continued, Ryan knows if he actually threw punches with me, he knows he'd get knocked out cold.
Rolley won their initial meeting, yet he's the one begging for a rematch. That's how you know he's in panic mode.
He continued, Conor Benn is garbage. I didn't want to scare him off, but he ran away anyways.
We now know that Conor Benn is fighting Regis Pregarius at a catch weight of 150 pounds, making his way down from middleweight, where he last fought, effectively leaving Rolley Romero without a dance partner. Rolley, who said, also completely unrelated, and I didn't want to fight Pacquiao out of respect for a legend, nor would I have got my credit, but he kept calling me out, then wastes my time because he is so broke, he wouldn't stop asking for more money.
I do believe that Manny Pacquiao is broke, but I believe that Rolley is even more broke than him, with less options.
Manny's got a scheduled fight with Ruslan Provodnikov, an exhibition, then the big one with Floyd Mayweather in September, while Rolley scratches and sniffs for somebody to fight. So he doesn't have to fight is mandatory.
Rolley continued, I'd fight Ryan while he's on steroids and still whoop him. He don't even gotta enroll in VADA. I'll enroll myself and let him take whatever drugs he wants. If he wants to take aspirin or testosterone or do cocaine, it's fine by me. Have fun.
I'll bet. This guy's desperate. Without those other guys as dance partners, Rolley by himself doesn't have much marquee value. He's only mildly interesting on the internet,
where everything is free,
including all of his zany interviews and wacky sound bites. But when it's time for the paying public to pay out their hard-earned dollars to see a boxing match, they don't think of Rolley. Rolley, who yesterday had a go at a couple of guys. He had a go at Ryan, he had a go at Manny, a go at Conor, even a go at Devin Haney, saying, Devin likes to sue people when he loses, but I'd knock him out cold. Let's make it happen. To which Devin responded, we could have made this fight months ago. Now you're desperate.
And those guys went back and forth with each other on social media for a while. I can't be bothered to read through the entire conversation, but the gist of it is Rolley claims to have sent Devin Haney a contract, saying, y'all just got the call. May 30th, New York City at the Barclays Center on Amazon Prime. Balls in your court, ducky. Which Devin confirmed on his own social media, saying, my father spoke with Louis DeCubas, Rolley's manager. The rumors are true. Let's see if we can get this done, inshallah.
So on that premise, should we expect this to be Devin Haney's next fight? Devin is a free agent, after all, free to fight wherever he needs to fight, wherever he can get the most money. Is that the PBC?
Fight!
I don't think it is. We all know the PBC have limited fight dates, finances, resources, and I don't think they can get up and offer generous enough for Devin to fight on one of their promotions as the away fighter against their champion. I would sooner expect Devin to try his chances on another one of Turkey El Sheikh's shows, which comparatively would be more neutral terrain for more money.
And not only that, there's more spite and more spice in a rematch between Devin and Ryan, now that they're both champions at the same weight, than anything involving Devin and Rolley.
He has to be realistic in these negotiations. You know, I'm not here to just take anything to get back, you know, whatever. You know, Ryan Garcia, when the ball was in his court, he didn't make weight. He showed up with a positive drug test. It was all over the place. So, you know, we're not going to do it like that time around. We're going to do it the right way. And so if he doesn't want to do it the right way, then we'll move on. Like I said, we'll go on to fight the guy that beat him, and the guy that he doesn't want to rematch. He's not screaming Rolley's name.
That's true.
So, like I said, if that is the case, then we go on and we fight Rolley. And if Ryan Garcia wants to get realistic, then we can make that fight happen now or later.
Devin says that Ryan has to be realistic because Ryan asserts that Devin Haney is the B-side, to which I agree. It's not about liking Devin or not liking Devin. It's about who's got more marquee value
and who's got more options. Devin, if you screw this up, Ryan can go ahead and have a rematch with Rolley, which Rolley is desperately looking for. But isn't Rolley an option for Devin also?
Yeah, an option that the PBC is looking to pay for. You won't get at the PBC what you could get with Turkey, and Devin knows that. You go to the PBC and you fight Rolley on their dime, whatever that is. You're relying on the antiquated pay-per-view model to pay you, whereas with Turkey, the money is up front, the money is guaranteed, and you know that he's good for it. So while Devin thinks that Ryan needs to be realistic, he needs to be realistic also.
Or are you so sure that Turkey'd be willing to pay for this?
Because Devin is a free agent, Turkey LL Sheik has already used him 2 times on 2 separate shows, because Haney versus Garcia is a commercially viable fight.
More than Rolley.
Haney versus Garcia has all the backstory and the bad blood, the controversy. Their initial meeting didn't do that well at the box office. It underwhelmed. But because of what happened afterwards and everything that came out, the rematch would be bigger. So if the first fight did in the neighborhood of 200,000 to 300,000 buys, I would anticipate the second would do about 4 to 5.
Close to 500,000.
The reason for it: going into the first fight, the entire boxing community at large had Devin Haney winning that fight. They looked at that fight as a foregone conclusion. They weren't expecting that version of Ryan Garcia to show up.
Juice to the gills.
So not that many people bought it. Whereas the second fight seems more like a fight, more like a competition. So it's spicier and easier to sell.
Easier for Turkey. I think that Turkey would be interested in doing the second fight between Devin and Ryan.
I think that in an ideal world, you do Garcia versus Haney, and as the co-main event to the main event, you do Rolley versus his mandatory challenger, Shakram Giasov, because that guy's been waiting for his shot for about 2 years now. It's about time that he got it.
He's been the mandatory since Stanionis had the fucking belt.
You do that fight as the co-main event to the main event to set up a fight between the winners of the co-main event and the main event. In an ideal world, that's how I think it should go.
Listen, Devin needs that rematch with Ryan more than Ryan does. Even with the Austrian, even with what came out afterwards, there are a lot of people out there that don't care. They still view it as Ryan having beaten Devin. Devin needs to get a win over that guy.
He needs to get his lick back. Go as far as saying that you could turn that into a trilogy. Ryan won the first one to a lot of people. If Devin wins the second, you can shoot for a third. I myself am not interested in any of these fighters. Ryan, Devin's revenge, Rolley, I don't care. But there are some people out there that do. And it's those people that will make the second fight between Ryan and Devin bigger than the first.
In men's heavyweight news, Daniel Dubois recalls dominating Fabio Wardley in sparring session, but explains why things are different now.
Daniel Dubois insists. He dominated Fabio Wardley in sparring, but going into their professional fight, things are different. Dubois and Wardley have shared rises through the heavyweight ranks up to world level, with the latter joining the party in recent years. Now their paths have finally crossed after the latter became WBO World Heavyweight Champion after Alexander Usyk vacated the title.
Which on rare occasion has now left Alexander Usyk subject to some criticism that he dropped his brown belt to turn around and fight a kickboxer in a novelty fight.
And Fabio Wardley left to contend with Daniel Dubois, which, not complaining about. The Ipswich native then bravely elected to opt for a huge fight in his voluntary defense against the former champion with world glory on the line, both in their physical primes, and it is an intriguing clash of styles, with the destructive pair having their own impressive knockout records. Wardley is on an undefeated streak and has yet to taste defeat, whereas Dynamite Daniel Dubois hopes to draw on experience from a second loss to Alexander Usyk to prevail.
Daniel is the far more experienced fighter of the two.
When you consider that for better or worse, he's been in there with Joe Joyce, he's been in there with Alexander Usyk 2 times, Jarrell Miller, Filip Prgovic,
Anthony Joshua.
In victory and defeat, all of which makes Daniel the more experienced fighter in the fight. It won't be the first time the pair have traded blows. The pair have shared competitive rounds and sparring in the gyms as they came through the ranks at various levels.
Here come the gym stories.
On paper, they will know exactly what to expect from each other, but in an exclusive chat with TalkSport.com, Dubois believes Wardley has changed and improved since their last brutal scrap in the gym. Daniel explained, "Yeah, it was years ago. We had several rounds. They were good scraps, but I was dominating him at the time. He gave me some good work, but look, he's come on so much since then. It is a different story now, and I'm a different fighter. I need to dominate him in the ring now and take that belt." Need I remind you that Daniel Dubois was said to have been dominated by Filip Hrgovic in sparring, but when they actually fought in an actual fight, you see who won, and you see that the gym stories, they didn't matter. Not that Daniel Dubois is relying on gym stories and old sparring sessions to secure him the victory here. He's not. He's acknowledging that those sessions were a really long time ago. He's smart enough to know not to fall back on that. The reason for it, well, it was a long time ago. You're now facing an improved version of that fighter, and all the experience they would have amassed over that duration of time, adding new tricks to the bag. You've got to prepare yourself for the very best version of that fighter, a better version than the version you faced years ago in a gym setting. Wardley himself has admitted as such. He was in a far different place to where he is now. The divisional champion was starting out in his professional career, whereas Dubois was further along in his. And he believes, like Dubois, that things are set to be a brawl and a real battle with little ground to give. Last time out, it was a painful loss for Dubois, who was dropped and stopped by Usyk as he sought a shot at becoming undisputed champion last July. In doing so, he lost his IBF title, but now faces a shot at redemption in his first outing since that defeat. Dubois is back with Don Charles, brimming with confidence, and believes the opportunity came at the perfect time. He continued, "This is the opportunity. When I found out it was for the world title, I was ready. That just says enough, really. I believe I am more than capable of now getting a belt back." This is a 50-50 fight. I'm leaning a little bit towards Fabio Wardley because he's got the snappier punches and he's got that one-hitter quitter power. They're both strong, Daniel and Fabio, but Fabio seems to have that equalizer, that one punch that if it lands, it could end the fight in the blink of an eye. It bailed him out in the Justice Hooney fight that he was losing wide on the cards, and it just bailed him out in the Joseph Parker fight where he was getting banged up. So they both punch hard, but I do think that Fabio punches a little harder. I think he's a little lighter on his feet. There's a little bit more speed in those hands, all of which, when you put it together, could result in a Fabio Wardley knockout. Credit to him for taking this fight, because I don't look at this as a layup for Fabio. This has all the potential to turn into a war that I'm looking forward to.